all of physical disease, so any symptom a person presents with, whether it's something like the common cold, sneezing, coughing, headaches, migraines, allergies, stomach indigestion, infertility, menstrual irregularities, anxiety, depression, insomnia, you name it. It's a physical manifestation. It's the outside. It's the of something happening underneath, more internally in the body. So I'm going to be presenting to you a very different way of looking at the body and disease and human personality. Okay, all of the physical symptoms that show up in us are coming from a deeper energetic imbalance. Okay, personality traits, behavioral irregularities in ourselves or children, it's coming from an imbalance inside the person. And the inside is made up of these 5 elements that we're going to learn about over this year. Okay, stop me anytime. Okay, if because I'm really teaching you a new language. So everything I'm giving over to you is what I learned in Chinese medicine school. I started 20 years ago studying and practicing Chinese medicine. It's a whole other way of looking at the world. It's a new language, and it took year after year after year to really integrate this and really understand it. Okay, so if it feels overwhelming at first, it's totally normal. But this work is really it's not just the foundation of Chinese medicine, it's actually the foundation of life. And it's rooted in Torah and Kabbalah. I'm going to show that to you. Not only are we going to be talking about behavior, personality, and disease, how things show up in a person, but we're going to be connecting it to the Jewish year. Okay? Because this is rooted in Torah and Kabbalah, everything connects to what we're doing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis in Torah Judaism. So as we move through the months of the year, we're going to be learning about the different types of people, the different elements, and I'm going to hopefully touch a little bit on Elul today. Okay? So we'll get right to what this is. These are called the 5 elements. Okay, this is the foundation of Chinese medicine. So like maybe close to, I think it was like 350 BCE, Chinese philosophers developed this theory, and this is how they understood the world and the body and disease. So what they did was they observed nature, and they knew, like the Torah says, that man is a microcosm of the world at large. So they observed what was happening in nature, how the sun rose and set, how the waterways moved, what the seasons did, and they put that on the body, and that's how they understood the circulatory system, the nervous system, the reproductive system. Okay? So too, it's rooted, it says in Kabbalah, and the Rambam writes in Yesodei HaTorah, that everything in the world is composed of 4 elements. Okay? So this is 5 elements, and I'm going to use 5 because it helps when we're describing the medicine, the body, and also personality types. But the Torah really makes these almost one, wood and fire. But the Rambam says everything in the world is made up of fire, earth, air, and water. So everything in the physical environment, anything in your physical body is made up of these 4 things. There's nothing in the world that doesn't have them. So too, writes the Baal HaTanya, right? The Alter Rebbe said, our nefesh, there's an aspect of us inside the body that's also made up of these 4 elements. So our emotions and our tendencies in life are coming from these elements as well. Okay? And that it's, Chassidus says one of the reasons we're in this world is to elevate and refine ourselves. So we each have all of these elements in us, in body, in mind, in heart. Okay? And we all have all of them, and we're here to bring them into balance. Bringing our emotions, our personalities, our interaction into balance, refined, even elevated from a coarse physical state, but elevated and refined. And this is how, so we each have all of them, but we have 1 or 2 dominant ones. okay? So when you get to know what each of the elements are, you're going to start to understand yourself in a whole new way. You're going to understand your children in a whole new way. Because when you understand their dominant element, you're going to understand, you're going to be able to see them. You're going to see their gifts and their beauty. You're going to be able to help nurture and help them grow their gifts that they came into the world to give. Okay? You're also going to understand their challenges a little bit and help them with that as well. You're also going to understand why you get triggered or why certain kids or certain behaviors or certain things are really hard for you. Okay? The reason is because we're here to grow and refine ourselves, right? And so the Baal Shem Tov says anything we see in life, anything that's been put in front of us in the world is for us, it's for us. If we're being taught something. So unfortunately when we have challenges in life, and particularly with our children, it's very it can be easy to feel burdened and feel like punished or feel overwhelmed or feel like it's not fair. But when we have this new lens of life, when we understand the diversity and the complexity of who we are, and we understand that at the foundation everything is good and everything is purposeful, what's presented to me as a challenge, I can understand. Once I understand it, I can work with it. Does that make sense? Okay? And the best part of this, and why this brings so much healing to oneself and in one's relationships, is because of the understanding. I think everybody wants to be seen, right? I think when people are looking for love, to home, to be cared for, there's an aspect of do you see me? Do you see what I'm experiencing, right? And especially for a child who doesn't have words to say it, they're going to show you in a behavior. And it's our duty as parents to understand what they're showing us, okay? And not to stifle it. I'm going to give you a summary of all the elements, okay? And then we'll get a little specific. So this is a map of sorts for the cycle of life. Okay, so this is what happens in nature, okay, and it also happens within us in our bodies physically and emotionally. So we'll start here with the water element, okay? This represents infancy. So let me start with nature, right? So when we think about water, water is considered the foundation of life. It's necessary for the growth of everything. We are over 70% water, okay? It's a foundation. It represents infancy in the life cycle. Okay, and it represents the winter, the dark time. Okay, the depths. In the Jewish calendar, this is like at Hanukkah, the depths, very depths of winter. Okay? Everything's going to have a correspondence. So it has a season, it's winter. Okay, it has an element, it's water. The body parts that correspond to this are the kidneys and the bladder. Okay, so in the lower back, right, and the lower abdomen. So this is any dysfunction, lower back pain, sciatica pain, kidney stones, recurrent UTIs, okay? Things like that on the medical sphere is going to relate to the water element, right? So someone presents with lower back pain in my clinic, I'm going to immediately start to think what's happening with their water element and go there for treatment, okay? It's also connected to the nervous system. Okay, so when we're treating a lot of stress and emotional pain, we're treating water. Okay, I'm saying this all to you because you're going to understand as we move along that you yourselves, your loved ones, are not always going to need to go outside to a healer to heal. You don't always need the acupuncture needle, the herb, the massage therapist to create healing. By understanding the element itself, by understanding the root cause of why you're feeling the way you're feeling, you're going to be able to go in and heal yourself with the right tools. And I'm going to be giving those to you as we move along. I'm going to be teaching you specific massage techniques and remedies that you can be employing at home for yourselves.
So are you saying that if one of those things
It's out of balance. Yeah, that element is out of balance.
And which one comes first? Is it the organ that's bothering you, or is it the stress or emotion?
It could be. It's a great question. It depends. I mean, everything is interconnected. We are not. We are not like these disparate pieces, right? We in the current Western medical model, the body and the organs are here, and the mind is here. It's all interconnected. And this is something I heard to say in the beginning. And this is, we've been learning. I think most of us we've been learning since we're little kids that we have a neshama, right? So, where is that neshama? Like, where does it reside, and is it separate from my body? So these concepts are about integration. The soul and the body have always been interconnected. The body can only be functioning because the soul is animating it, right? One thing another thing is, we have this physical body called a guf. We have a neshama, which is the pure piece of us that is of God, the piece of God within us, and interconnecting them and in between is something called the nefesh. Okay, and the nefesh is these elements. So you're really going to understand yourself, what's flowing through you constantly. The Alter Rebbe said the nefesh and all these elements resides in the blood and flows through. And it's the root of all of our emotions, right? All our gifts and all of our challenges. So sometimes disease imbalance comes from the outside, right? A person has a fall, they hurt their leg. A person catches a virus or a bacteria. It's something coming outside and impacting. And that's one cause of disease. Another cause of disease or imbalance is the emotions. When these guys are not doing what they need to do, when they're not in balance, too much anger, too much sadness, too much worry will cause an imbalance in the corresponding organ. So too much fear is the emotion associated with the water element. Too much fear can cause low back pain. Right? That answered it. Yeah. Okay. The hormones are very much associated with the water element too, but not in the emotional sense of that presents in PMS, postpartum conditions. This is more related to genetics and essence. Because it's the time of infancy, it's related to the time of growth and development. So how a person is able to move, a person moves through different milestones in life, right? Those slower to develop come into the world with a more challenged water, perhaps. How that gets challenged, we're going to talk about also. Why these go off, why these don't move in the way they were designed to, we're going to talk about. Okay? Now, the water element is also associated with wisdom. Okay? So people with strong water, they like the depths of the sea. They have a lot of depth to them. Okay, they like the depth. They like to be learning. They're very smart. They come these are the kids who come off immediately how smart they are with what's coming out of their mouths. Right, water's compared to Torah, so this is the deep wisdom. The ears are associated with the water element, so it could be any challenge with recurring ear infections, listening, tinnitus. All corresponds to the water element too. Okay, and you have to, when you think about nature, there's different kinds of water sources, right? You can have a still lake. You can have a jumpy waterfall, very active, rapid movement. You have the ocean waves coming in and out. So these are different aspects of water in nature, or will show up as different aspects of water in people. Okay, you can have someone with a strong water element who's so still, who has learned how to make themselves very still. Or you have really active people, the people who are always on the go in the fight or flight, right? Water out of balance is the sympathetic nervous system in overdrive. People constantly moving, can't do enough, can't sit down. These people show up eventually with sciatica and low back pain. So we're just going to keep giving examples of nature and people because this is life. Like, this is who you're living with, who you're encountering, and when you could understand each other, we can have more peace and harmony with each other, right? Yeah.
Right. If someone has, let's say, the water element is strongest in them, does that mean it can go along with everything that you're describing? Are they going to be a very smart person? Are they going to be a person with a lot of depth? Is that hands in hands, or it doesn't necessarily manifest everything that you're saying?
So many varieties, so many ways. And remember, we're not just one, we're all of them, but we have one or two dominant. So I think there could be vulnerabilities to everything I'm saying, doesn't mean they have to happen. Okay, especially if a water person has a strong earth in them too, or they've developed the skills and the gifts of the earth, which controls water, which I'm going to explain soon. You're not going to have to, have those symptoms. Does that make sense? It's just going to be, it's not black and white. It's very colorful. It's very moving. You just have to keep minds open and just absorb and see. You'll start seeing it for yourselves. Okay. 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 So from water, we move into wood. So water nurtures plant life, right? So this is the next stage of the growth and the life cycle. So from winter, we move into spring. Okay? From infancy, a person grows into a toddler, right? A young child. So everything has its manifestation physically, but it's also an energetic movement, which we'll hopefully get to practice a little bit. So water I just described, right? It could be still, it could be jumpy, it could be in and out. The energy of the wood element is like a plant, a tree, it's up. It wants to be up and it wants to be out, right? Think of a toddler who doesn't want to be tied down, wants to be constantly moving, jumping, growing, right? Now, this is not just in the toddler, it's in all of us. We all have this at every stage of life. There's parts of us that always want to be growing and moving and expanding. And a lot of this disease and symptoms that show up in us, especially in women, anything related to the menstrual cycle, anxiety, depression, has a lot to do right here with growth being squashed and stifled, whether from our own selves doing it for whatever reasons or from the outside, okay? And so this is such an important part of what we're going to be learning. It's going to be a few months till we get there, but this is a huge piece. And especially for the mothers in the room, it's such a dance of how to allow someone to grow, ourselves, our kids, how to let them express their unique, independent selves, but guiding them as they need, guiding them, within certain boundaries and not cutting them down and allowing them to grow. So think of this upward movement, right? In balance, it's beautiful. When you watch your gardens grow and you see trees flowering, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. We love to be amidst it. When it's out of balance, when it's been stifled or repressed, and I'm talking about a person's talents and gifts, emotions, feelings, thoughts, when it gets repressed, it leads to anger, okay? And then that anger is either going to be outwards, and it's going to manifest as rage or defiance in children and adults, okay? Or almost worst is when it gets turned inward and it's not expressed, but it's still stuck. And that's when we see several disease patterns in women that show up, whether it's in the breast or in the reproductive organs. Does it always happen? No. Is a disease that shows up always related because of repressed anger? No. But a lot of the time it is. So it's so important we understand this and value the movement of life. This is how we prevent disease. This is how we heal and we prevent disease. Okay? Okay, so the organs associated with this element are the liver and the gallbladder. Okay, so on a physical level, if we see high blood pressure from the liver, if we see liver enzymes too high, gallbladder stones, A lot of indigestion is going to be associated here. We're going to be looking at this. Also, any chronic sinus conditions, migraine headaches associated with this. Okay. Depression, yeah.
I was gonna ask you if that's where depression.
A lot of it is here. A lot of it is here. Sadness and anxiety is going to be more related to fire here. But again, these are so connected. But yeah, I would say depression is here. Depression is more what I see in practice is repressed desire. A person not being able to rise up, achieve their goal, express themselves. Feeling stuck in life is here, is when this has been cut down by this element, which is the time we're in route. We're going to get to it. Okay, so a lot of, again, I think I said this, like menstrual irregularities, everything from PMS, off-cycle periods, very much connected to here. We have to look at that part of us when we're treating that.
Did you say something about menstruation with water also? I'm like getting confused.
I said hormones.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So like when we're looking at hormone levels, let's say estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, we're looking here.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. But the emotional side of hormones is here a little bit more. And so what we do, in medical practice is we're going to use acupuncture points and herbs that correspond to these two elements. So you're getting you get an understanding of how holistic medicine is working, why it's so effective.
Is this the same as holistic? That's what I was gonna ask. Is it the same as holistic approach? Is that what this is? It's like a holistic.
Yeah. It's one lens. This is the Chinese medical lens of holistic medicine. Yeah. Okay. This is associated with self-esteem, self-worth. Okay. So this is also when we're working with addiction. We're going to be working with this a lot, right? Very connected to a sense of self. Yeah. Yeah.
So if someone's experiencing these things from each element, that means that something in that time period
Great question.
stuck there?
Great question. Yeah. Right. So much of healing. So the question was, if someone is experiencing the symptoms of what we're discussing, is that they're stuck in that time period. To a certain extent, yes. And I think all of us, versed in healing, all this work on the inner child that happens, it's here. Like the work on self-esteem and depression, addiction, it's very much related to this. So it could be that something occurred at this period of life that.
Like what kind of something?
What kind of something? Could be, yeah, any sort of trauma, physical, emotional. It could be, emotional neglect. It could be, that child not being seen, and so not being able to develop into themselves or express themselves, and it's showing up here. But why? But you'll notice some people, it'll show up differently. And so it's not just that something happened in here. Did it begin here in infancy? Did it begin in the mother's womb in the conditions of her pregnancy? So it could be like a physiological trauma. A woman got sick during pregnancy or had her own emotional challenges in pregnancy. Like, right? Why do we work so hard to safeguard our children when they're in our wombs? Because they're impacted by what we go through. Not just what we eat, by what we go through. So yeah.
What about a child experiencing, let's say their dominant would be earth, but they didn't reach maturity yet. So then obviously that's not something that, meaning if they're having symptoms of something that's earth related that we didn't get to
Yeah.
yet, but they didn't even reach that stage of the life cycle.
Yeah.
That's not something in that time period, but it's just, that's the dominant element wreaking, the imbalance is wreaking havoc in there.
Yeah. So we're going to see this. Actually, there's another way of looking at this chart, and where earth doesn't come at the end, but it's actually coming in between every element, and it's actually the core. Okay, so what we see, children who have poor digestion, delayed growth, bedwetting, what else? Getting sick recurrently, sometimes have Their main issue is here, not here. The mother's pregnancy was fine. The emotional dynamics at home are fine. But they came into the world challenged in this element. And so we need to boost them. We boost their digestive system and that alleviates a lot of the symptoms. Yeah. Most of the work I do when I'm working with people recovering from PTSD and working with emotional pain, it's really in here. Okay? And once, strengthening, balancing, working with these elements, and once they get strong and aligned, the person can move into fire. Okay? The person can access their hearts. So this is a big piece I want to talk about now. Also, so some people, you'll see sometimes we skip elements in life. So if this is how nature intended, we go from infancy, toddler, to adolescence, right? Some people, because of what happens here, they skip adolescence. They don't, right? Some people, they'll tell you, like, I was never able to be a teenager. I was an adult from a young child, whether that's circumstances at home or something that was internalized for them. And you see them living out their adolescence in their 40s and 50s. The next phase is fire. So wood burns, creates fire. Okay, this represents adolescence. This is the summer. We just came out of the fire season. And the organs associated with the fire element are the heart, and the organ that wraps around the heart, the pericardium, the small intestine, okay? And also this organ that we have in Chinese medicine that doesn't have, we're not sure has a physical component called the triple warmer, what we call the sanjiao, which Western medicine now thinks could be connective tissue. It's something that permeates the whole body, controls a lot of water metabolism. This is associated with every aspect of the circulatory system. A person's circulation, cold, hands, feet, how much energy, vitality you have, any physical heart condition. We're going to be looking at the fire element, right? What's all this heart disease? Why is it the number one killer, or used to be? What's that about? This is associated with the part of the body of the tongue. Okay, so fire's connected with speech, the ability to communicate. Okay, it's related to the heart, so this is about trust. This is about vulnerability. This is about being able to be present. Everybody just wants peace, right? Peace in life, stillness, peace of mind. It's here. This is so people come in with like foggy thinking, brain fog, losing memory. This is associated with the fire element. The mind is associated with the fire element. Insomnia, anxiety, heart palpitations, shortness of breath is here.
I feel like anxiety was all them.
I know the same way. But it comes from the
Right, exactly. That's why this medicine is so effective in treating anxiety, because it's no one's the same. We have to assess where is the anxiety coming from.
Miriam,
Yeah.
is it true to say that if one of them is someone's biggest struggle, then that one healed and balanced, that's their biggest strength? Meaning if the symptoms that you described, that's where someone struggles most, that means that's their main element of who they are?
I mean, usually it's like that. Your greatest strength is your greatest challenge.
Positive
But,
fire?
oh, yeah, we should get to the positive. I'm going to get to that. Yeah. I should have started there. Yeah, so yes, your greatest challenge can be your greatest strength. But it doesn't always mean you have to heal. Like if you're very strong in water, so you have a very strong fear, let's say, that's the challenge, trouble being courageous, you don't necessarily have to go in here to heal that, if that's too hard. You can come into fire, you can come into the heart. The heart will heal everything, right? That's why they say,
But if balance, will that be your main one?
that might be your main gift, yeah, sure.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
You started to make us excited.
Oh, no, They're saying like doesn't it says it,
Sure remember, so a few people like.
joy can heal, right? We learn
The heart, you're saying it says, but you didn't continue.
well the joy can is does it say in Hasidus the joy is the greatest healer. Joy is the greatest medicine. So the heart, the clarity of mind, which is connected to the soul, can come in and heal it all. A change of perspective, just feeling loved, just a hug. So many times, all I have to do, I'm telling you, most of the work I'm doing with young kids, 4, 5, 6 years old, whose parents bring them in because they're ADD and quote unquote, because I don't like diagnostic labels. All I'm doing is enhancing like touch and affection at home, like having the parents spend 15 minutes every day with the child touching them, therapeutic touch, and symptoms go away. So loving touch is so powerful, and we lose it. Our babies come into the world, and we're hugging them and constantly touching them and swaddling and massaging, and somewhere along the line we lose it. We lose the touch. So even with adolescents, I'm reminding moms, hug your daughters. And they're like, you know what? I stopped hugging her. It's like we forget. Touch is a little bit like, I don't know. It's like sometimes the last thing we go to. So the positives of fire is touch. The touch, loving touch, communication, singing, dancing, fun, spontaneity. Okay, so sometimes when you have a challenge in fire, if a person has anxiety, insomnia, we'll give herbs and do needles, but I'll also say, bring spontaneity into your life, right? Go out and have some fun. But they're like, but it's so hard, I don't want to. But that's what's going to heal you. That's the medicine for that element. You have to do it. Sometimes you don't want to do it. It's the last thing you feel like doing, but it's your medicine. Right? And mitosha lo lishma balishma, we say in Torah. So even when you don't want to do it, you'll come to want to. It just becomes a part of you, and then you're in a good place.
It's probably also so hard to get people to believe that that is medicine, like that's,
Yeah. Took me a long time to believe that would be enough. Yeah. But you get tired of living a certain way, and you take a leap, you try it. This is a big one. I want to say something else about this. So it really explains a lot of why these guys go out of balance, why the organs, this explains why do some people get digestion issues or Crohn's, and some people have migraines, why some people's stress goes into their lower backs, why some people can't sleep. Did it ever occur to anyone to question that? This is explaining it. So the Chinese talked about the body. They gave a role to every organ, because they were always comparing from the body to the outside of nature, but also for them to the emperor's palace. Right, the emperor for them was their king, almost a god. Okay, and so the emperor, the only thing the emperor has to do is sit on his throne and rule the kingdom. Okay, so too in our bodies, the heart. The heart is the most. It's called the emperor of the body, and all it has to do. This is really big. All the heart has to do is be. The heart knows what to do. She knows to beat, gets the blood pumping through the world, and she just has to sit there, and things will flow. That's the aspect within us that is good, is pure, it's the ruler within us, that which rules our body, right? Our self. So all these other organs are serving the heart, according to Chinese medicine. So the liver is called the general. It's like the general of the army. The liver serves the heart, serves the king, by making sure everything is functioning as it needs to. Okay, so this is the ego and the aspect of us that wants things a certain way, has the vision, right? I want my curtains there. I want my child in this school. I want my cake to come out like this, right? And this is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. It creates order and direction and functioning, but it can go out of balance, right? And turn into perfectionism and rigidity. So we're always being mindful of what we're doing. The gallbladder serves the heart by being courageous, by taking the vision of a person and enacting it. Everything has its own role. And why our bodies go out of balance, why we get stomach problems or high blood pressure, is all to protect the heart. They're so busy, the organs, our parts of us are so busy protecting our hearts for the positive and the negative. So because she's so important, she needs to be protected, right? But sometimes we're protecting ourselves from feeling too much, right? And we're blocking ourselves from our feelings, from our emotions, from our thoughts, and sometimes we have very good reasons to do that. But if you want to understand why a body goes out of line and starts to get sick, it's usually coming back to the feelings and the mind. So again, why coming into here can impact everybody else. Okay,
Does it have a season?
summer. Okay, so working with this map, the next stage is going to be Earth. We call this late summer in Chinese medicine. So this is late August, like the really hot, sticky time that we just got out of. And this is associated with the digestive system.
When does it start maturity?
I'm going to say, when does it start?
So like 20 to 30, like that.
On this chart, I'm going to say, yeah, like 20, like maybe 30s, 40s. Yeah. I feel like we're still adolescents in our 20s. These are the digestive organs. This is the spleen, the stomach, the organs within us that receive food, nourishment. Okay. This would be like the storehouses in the kingdom, like storing grain, right? In the analogy of the palace. This is earth people, and all of us have earth in us, but the really strong earth people, these are like the real caretakers in life. They real nurturers. They, you just feel cared for in their presence. So like in children, these are like, they're very close to mommy all the time, these kids. They're very eager to please. Out of balance, they become people pleasers. But they're very eager to please. They really like to be with food. They like to be cooking and baking and being in the kitchen. They're very thoughtful. So the positive trait of the earth element is thoughtfulness. So they're always thinking, how do I, like those really good people who are really good hostesses, like they're always thinking about what each guest needs and able to provide it. Out of balance, that thoughtfulness becomes obsessive compulsive thinking and behaviors. Okay, so when a person presents in the practice with OCD, in Chinese medicine, that is not a brain issue. That is an earth issue. That's earth out of balance. And I see it really heal very quickly in children and adolescents who start having, and usually it's around puberty that it starts. Some people, they're usually an earth type, and they can come out of it really fast when they have the appropriate medicine, when mom starts hugging them more, they move out of obsessive thinking. It's really fascinating. From late summer, we move into autumn, which is what we've just transitioned into. And this is a great way to close today. So this represents the elder years. This is the metal element. In Torah, it's called air, but in the medicine, it's called metal. Okay? The organs associated with this body and time period are the lungs and the large intestine. Okay, so I skipped the energetic movements, right? So if the toddler and the wood phase is this upward movement of like a plant, fire is like a fire. It's a dancing fire. It's up and down movement, right? So these kids are like easily energized and then lose their energy really quickly. Emotionally could be up and down. What?
Like manic depressive type of men.
You can use those words.
What's the better term?
I say fire imbalance, or wherever the imbalance is, but it's like Do you know why it's so emotional and sensitive for me? Because what happens is when we use those labels, and there's nothing wrong because that's our culture and our medicine, we use those labels and that person gets stuck, diagnosed manic depressive, and that's it for life. And they're put on medication, and that's how they're seen for the rest of their lives. And nobody thought to look a little bit deeper as to why the fire in that person got out of balance. And so much can heal. They might always have these tendencies and these extremes because it's their nature, but we can balance it. We can make it manageable.
What if you see something in your kid? Can you help balance an element in them without their like awareness of it?
Yeah, totally. That's what you're doing. That's what we're doing as parents. That's what we're here to learn. Yeah, but that's what we're doing as parents, and we have to. We have to know what we're working with. So I'm going to teach you.
Work with the elements?
Yeah. Yeah. First, we have to become aware of what the elements are. You have to know what's looking at you. Like when your child comes at you with a shout, you're going to know that's a lot of wood coming at you. And you're going to understand it, and then you're going to know how to approach it. You're either going to bring water into the room, not literally, but with your words and your energy, or you're going to bring fire to sedate the anger. Yeah.
When you said fire, I'm like, they just want to be hugged, right? Or that could heal them. I wish I don't want to, like, some kids, some adults don't like to be hugged.
Yeah.
It's probably something missing there, but some, like, even kids, like,
So there's a spectrum, but there's also a way they want to be touched. Depending on your constitution, you're going to want to be touched a certain way, and this is really important because we all need touch to survive, right? We know there were studies done in orphanages. Children who weren't touched or held did not survive. Touch is imperative to life. They all need it, even when they fight it. You just have to know how and when, right?
Some kids don't like to be smothered,
Right.
but they'll they won't even notice you tapping their hands when you're talking to them because it's like less invasive, but it's much needed, and that could be such a strengthening,
Exactly.
medicinal effect.
Exactly. Like a metal child, they're very sensitive. These are the very sensitive, artistic, creative types. Here, they don't want like a mushy, forever hug. They want a lighter touch. An earth person could probably take a stronger hug, right? Wood, definitely, they want assertive, right? Now, sometimes you have children who are all of them. If you're particularly challenged, your child is very strong in all of them. And that's why you never know what's coming at you because there's so many things all the time. Okay, so the more you know, the more skilled. So we're going to learn.
You were also saying that metal's movement is like downward?
Yes,
What does that mean?
thank you for bringing us back. So, right, the dance of the fire, the earth movement is circular. That's why, because it's connected to thought, it will lead to obsessive thinking. It's a circular thing, energy. Okay? The metal element is downward. I'm going to use those in a second. It's a downward energy. So literally on the circle, we're coming down. Okay? We're closing out the year. Okay? We're in Chodesh Elul. We're closing down the year. The energy is down. So if you think it's the lung and the large intestine associated with the metal, that the exhale of the lungs, right? It's a letting go, it's an exhale. The large intestine, when it eliminates, it's a downward energy, right? So this is downward. So this is emotionally, it's associated with grief, with the capacity, grief not in a negative way, but grief in its purpose, which is to help us let go. To exhale. We have a lot of trouble letting go. All of us, for many different reasons. But a lot of people don't breathe, right? Everybody's short of breath. They can't take deep breaths, right? And a lot of that is also rooted in a lot of physical issues because I think we don't know how to let go. It's not necessarily something that we maybe learned how to do or is valued. But this is a big piece of healing, and it's a big piece of the time we're in. The end of the year, we're going to have to let go of of things, and not all bad, right? But we'll have to, we're going to have to, Elul is a month of accounting, okay? We have to look back at the year and see what we got. We have to gather the treasures of the year. That's why this is called metal, because it's about the metal, the fine pieces of minerals that you find in the earth, the minerals that nourish water, the beautiful gemstones and crystals that grow, develop in the earth. That's the metal. So you're going to look back. This can be a little homework if you want homework, and it's a way to integrate what we've learned today, is to reflect back on the year and find the precious metals of your year, all the gifts. Write them down.
Like, wow.
Like you had a baby this year.
Anything positive.
You're like, I'm
Yeah,
everything.
positive
Okay.
things.
Not like, oh, I did this good this year and I did this good.
Yes, that too. All the gifts of your year.
Okay.
Gather them. Hold them.
Like what we got or what we did? Okay.
Everything, right?
So the unbalance is that they can't let go and they cannot like look back on these things and they like hold on to things too much?
So there's rigidity, yeah. So it shows up medically. You're going to see, it can show up as asthma. It shows up in disorders of the skin. Sometimes eczema is related to this. Chronic constipation in children, adults. They may have a strong metal element, or they just have a metal out of balance, metal can be. I mean, metal is strong, right? It's so easy to be rigid. How do you temper metal so that you can shape it and work with it? The touch, the love. If you have a very particular child, a very rigid, or we're talking about ourselves, like rigidity, like these kids, people with strong metal have incredible gift of seeing details. They see everything. These are the kids that like point everything out, right, on you, like, mommy, that doesn't look good, right? Like, right? And it's so easy to get insulted and like take it personally, but it's a strong metal. They see things. We have to respect it. So much, like Hashem created the world with speech, right? So, and because we are a piece of God, we too create with speech. So we have to be very careful how we speak. So even just the example before about like saying manic depressive versus saying fire and balance, I'm so sensitive to it, something I've been working on. The way we speak about things is going to have an impact. The way you speak to a child, the way you speak about the child or anyone in your life, it's going to change not only them because they're going to feel it, it's going to change your perspective of it. Okay? So I'm like inviting us all to be mindful of that when we hit challenges, how we speak about them, right? Like and I do this with mothers in the clinic who are struggling with challenging children and like, oh, my son's crazy. He's crazy. He was crazy today. And I'll say, can we find another word to describe it? Because her son's not crazy. He's this beautiful child that she davened for and loves and cares for on a continual basis. But if she keeps calling him crazy, that's what she's going to see. And then life is going to be chaotic. What she's seeing is an imbalance here. To her looks crazy because she may be gifted already with some like stamina, stability, but what she's seeing this erratic movement in her child, but it's just something happening here. So we're going to be learning a new language again of how to like describe what we're seeing, and through that we're going to judge less and we're going to embrace all aspects of life more, and it becomes easier when you start speaking to, and again, mitoch shelo lishma ba lishma. It's going to feel weird at first. You're going to want to say something else. You're going to want to yell. You're going to want to do something. Try to shift what comes out, how you speak about it.
It's also so connecting, because it's so disconnecting when you see someone and you're like, wow, they're so blah, blah, blah. And when you see that cycle in yourself, it's so connecting.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Leah said it's so connecting. When we can learn this and understand it and speak what it is, we stay in the circle of life. We stay the family unit is cohesive. It stays intact. There's no shutting down, right? Sometimes through challenge or using those kinds of words, we shut down. Things feel hopeless. We can't handle it. We outsource it. But we as mothers, or whatever kind of role you are assuming in this life, you have to, we have to show up. Whatever's coming at you is for you, right? It's to teach you and bring you back to balance. So when something feels strong coming from another person, it's definitely a call to you, something you have to check in yourself. Not always. Sometimes it's the other way, and we're the parent, and we have to guide and balance. But surely it's always also for us, to bring us to keep balancing, or to stepping into other elements that we may have forgotten about in life.
What does crying and grief have to do with being grateful? If the element in metal is all that, why, like, how does that correspond?
How does gratitude correspond to
No,
and grief?
the chart.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to use this.
So you were saying in metal, like over, we should reflect on being grateful.
Well, I think about the lungs. I think about the lungs taking in oxygen and breath. So there's that connection we make with more ethereal, spiritual side of life, which is associated with gratitude. But I'm able to well, it's also this time of year. It's associated with awe, right? We're moving into the days of awe, the high holy days. The lungs are it's a very spiritual element and an organ, and that's why it's associated with gratitude, but also it's like the preciousness of life that I have to also. I'm not able. It's the air. I can't hold on to everything. I have to be able to let go or grieve. So there's two sides of it. Everything has its masculine and feminine side. It's light and it's dark. It's gift and it's challenge. So there's gratitude, like when God forbid we lose a person, right? I have gratitude, the yin and the yang. I'm gratitude for the gifts that I had, what I was given, and at the same time I have to let go. Does that make sense? Okay. Anything else? Okay. So practically, how can you bring metal into your life this week, in the coming weeks before Rosh Hashanah? Practice your breath. And take time to do that accounting, maybe a little like stock taking, the gratitude, and a little bit of the letting go. And remember, the letting go is never, it's not an ultimate loss. It's just sometimes making room for new to come in the new year. Okay? Thank you, guys.